There is a port to check your water pump circuit and the agitator circuit. That should be 200 bar. Your oil cooler, because we have a specific for that, where the cooler is, if you follow the two hoses in the frame, you are going to find a solenoid, and you are going to find a port at the end of that solenoid where you can connect your gauge. When you kick in, you are going to have a spike. We are setting it around 60 to 70 bar. In the south, we get really, really cold. Really hot. If we are getting it around 90, 100 bar. Because that way it will force more air through. Basically what we are doing is we are increasing the pressure before it goes over relief, so it will have more flow, so the oil cooler will work better. And we notice that in places like New Mexico, Arizona, the south of the states, we need to do that. Other than that, usually the pressure in that one is around 60. On the boom, in your hand valves, if you follow the line just before the filter, you are going to find a T with another port when you can connect your gauge and check the pressure for the boom. Besides the main block for the pump, where the gauge for the accumulator is, behind that accumulator gauge is two ports. The one to the outside, don't worry. We can talk about this over the phone if you need to check anything. But every single pressure can be checked. In the right-hand side, towards the edge of the truck, we have the pilot pressure. That's set up at 40 bar in most of our new models. In the inside, behind that gauge is the second port. That is our volume control. That is a variable, and it goes from around 0 to around 25. Because we don't have precise pressure, because we have pressure in the system, we got the atmospheric pressure. It usually works between 2 and 27. The more pressure you have, the more you can change the swash plate and the pump, and then you can put it in minimum. If you don't have pilot pressure, the pump will destruct to maximum volume in more pumps. So you need volume control to slow it down. If you don't have volume control, it will go full blast. So checking your pressures. If you need to do something, you got it in your list, you are not sure about something. In hydraulics, we only check two things. We check flow, we check pressure. How you check the flow in your pumps when you are in the field? Well, I'm pumping, and I think my pump's not right. Why? Well, it gets right away over relief, and I'm only pumping like a 16 times per minute. Okay, you have a 16 cell. You are supposed to be pumping 30 strokes per minute, theoretically, in perfect conditions. We have a problem with the volume. You don't need the flow meter to know that you have an issue. We will find some way to, in the field, check what is going on. If we have to go deeper into that, we will get a flow meter. But most of the stuff, we have experience enough to try to find a way to say, do me a favor, put your pump in reverse, full volume, full RPMs, and during a minute, count how many strokes you have. If we got 28, 29, okay, your volume is right. We have to look for something else. Maybe your relief is too low. So I will go and I said, in the left-hand side of the truck, in the driver's side, you have one solenoid, solenoid number 2. It's the one that we don't leave alone activated because it will high pressure the system. I'm gonna ask you to go full RPMs in your pump. Wear eye protection, because if something blows, you don't want hydraulic oil in your eyes, and lock that one. It will dead end the pump, and it will show the pressure. If we have 350 bar, we got pressure, and we got the volume necessary, and you haven't have to use any specialized tool. So everything we can do in service to help you to figure it out what is happening without having to go and buy thousands of dollars in equipment, give us a call. We might have a trick, and we will share it with you. So that is the kind of stuff you need to know. Check your pressures. If you are not sure of something, call us. We will explain to you step by step how to check every single thing in your pump. And if we don't know it, if I have to call the engineers in Korea to give me the runaround, I will contact you back as soon as I got the response. We have a service department, and we are pretty much 24/7. Don't call me Sunday afternoon when you are thinking about it at home. But other than that, we are 24/7 in there. Wherever you need, give us a call. I don't have the money, and I don't know how to get another girlfriend for you guys, but everything else, I will try to help you as best as I can. Check hydraulic pressure, check hydraulic oil. Our book says that after 500 hours, you have to change your oil, which will be great. how much is a full tank of oil, or even better, the whole system. The whole system is around 1,000 liters, will be, what, 200, 300 gallons? Yeah, around there. It's a lot of money. Before you do that, because I'm very thrifty, I will ask you, get a sample of your oil, get an SOS kit, send it to Caterpillar, get the standard of your oil, get the kind of oil you have. We will give you the information. It's AW46 is more of the pumps. If you are in a hot environment, we will be using an anti-wear, AW32. And if you are in a really hot environment, it will be AW68. There is 3 weights we work with. We have extreme case in Alaska where they have to use 22. But the problem with 22 is way below zero, you have to change it. It's, I think, like 14 degrees Celsius, you have to change it because it's that critical. But they are sub-zero 90% of the time, so for 6 months of the year, they have to use a 22. It's a critical one. It's a very particular one because it's so thin, it's almost like water. So the moment you get a little bit of temperature, they have to change it. So in general, our pumps, AW46, in most of North America. In the south, 68. In the north, where we are in Canada, we use 32 in some places.
The weight of oils, now I know when we get them, they got 46 in them, but we use 68.
Okay, when you order your pump, you call your salesperson and he says you need 68, and within production, we'll empty that tank and we'll top it up with 68. You just need to ask you and to ask us, and we will do that for you. Because if you need hot oil for a hot environment, we will do it for you. So the only thing you need to do, you order your pump, and your work order, just make sure that you order the proper oil. Or talk with your salesperson, what oil should I be using for this weather?
Will it tell you in the data sheet what oil?
Yes. When you get your books, you have 2 gray books. There is 2 or 3 pages with all the data, because we run the pump for it's like a 1 week of test in our shop. Once we lift the pump, put it in the truck, assemble everything, put all the standards for North America, we run it at high pressure. We do testing up to 350 bar in our system. So all of that data, all of the specific adjustments we have done for temperature, pressure, speeds in the boom, speeds in the outrigger, amount of strokes per minute, all of that data, from the color of the truck to the pressure in your pump, should be there. If it's too old and you don't have that, give us a call. Usually we have archives with most of the models and with most of the information.
Back to my original question, does it hurt to blend the 68 with the 48? 46?
46. If you use the same brand, it hurts less because it will have the same kind of detergent, anti-foam, anti-rust, antioxidants. If you use different brands, the problem is the anti-foam of this company might attack this other one and it will break down. The ideal is to go with the same kind of oil, or at least the same brand of oil. When you change the weight, what you're going to have is an average. So it won't be completely 68 because in the system you still have some 46. But if you use the same brand, they will have the same additives. So one additive is not going to affect the other. So that is important. That will be about the hydraulics. Pumping kit, you are going to work with Darren and he's going to show you the important parts that you have to do. Every so often you have to tie down that adjustment between the cutting ring and the wear plate. There is a procedure to do it. Darren is going to go through it. It's very simple. The mechanical part is the testing after. One of the things I like to do is I dump the pressure in the accumulator with the hand valve, the dump hand valve, and around 40-60 bar, I move manually my S-tube. And it has to clear. It has to have a full sweep, stopping once when it gets to the end, move it to the other side, and stop when it moves to the other end. If it doesn't move all the way, and if it gets stuck in one side, you have to check because it could be too tight. So you need to be tight. You need to be making a contact. You need to make it work fine. And the more often you change you turn your cutting ring and keep it properly working, it will seal better. You won't squeeze the water out of the system and it works better. If you put it too tight, I have seen cases when the system just doesn't work anymore because it's so tight, the hydraulics are not going to move it. And I'm quite sure one of you have seen it already. So we're going to talk, when Darren is over there, you are going to be hands-on. You have a document over here how to check that. We're going to see the clearance between the cutting ring and the S valve. Rotate the ring. The more you rotate your ring, every 3 months, every 6 months, whatever, depending on the amount of pumping you do, the longer it's going to last. So you are going to get the last penny out of the parts that we sell it. So not only will have a good price in your pump and a good price in the parts, you're going to get all the wear and tear of the parts, so it really will be cost effective. Maintenance will save you money. I know maintenance sounds like, oh shoot, I have to buy something, but this way you're going to stop buying a bunch of things. So it's important. Check piston cups wear. Piston caps are cheaper than the material cylinders. When your piston caps are worn out and start dragging cement in between the lips, it's wearing out your cylinders. We have cases where the cylinder gets so damaged, it chips a little bit of chrome. Every time the piston caps goes over there, it takes a little flute of the rubber. And I have seen those piston caps, and it looks like somebody has been dragging them with a knife and carving them. And it's the point where the chrome, that little bit of chrome, is eating away your piston caps. And it's not fun to be changing piston caps every 2 weeks. It's not cheap. It's not fun. So do your due maintenance, do your due diligence. When you got too much cement in the water box, change your piston caps. We have the procedure. There is a video how to do it. We have the PDF documents. You can download it from our website, or we can send it to you. Or if you need it, we will talk with you step by step over the phone to change your piston caps. It's a couple tricks over there to get the cylinders all the way up. There is a technical way to do it, and there is the one when I disconnect the little line that goes on top of the sensing valve in the front, move that pipe to the front, put the bucket under, I get a big crowbar and I push the cylinder the last inch. So there is the very practical way to do it now, and there is the technical way to do it with the hydraulics and everything. We will give you both ways to do it. Wherever is easier for you, whatever tools you have at hand, we will try to help you with that. We talk about the material cylinder for scoring, main cylinder rod seal for oil leaks, and rod for scoring. Water talk box bolts. We talk about you change your water, you check your bolts. The cylinders. Our system has oilers. Every time you reach the end of the stroke, especially in the full-size head, not the rebuildable ones, there is a drop of oil that goes on top of the piston cap. When you are pumping, it will be in between both lips, so you won't see it. When you put it in reverse, because it's going in the opposite direction, that drop of oil is going to fall on top of the rod. So at the end of the day, you will see a little bit of drops on top of the oil. Yes, boss?
How much PSI is allowed to drop the oil?
What do you mean PSI?
For the oil that goes in the water box.
The oil in the water box, every time you shift over, we have, depending on your system, you will have 190, 200, and 210 bar. That is the shifting pressure for the cylinders. When you shift over, we tee into that line a tiny line. That's a restriction. With that restriction, we control pressure and volume, and that restriction goes, and right there near to the water box, there is a grease fitting with a T with 2 lines. That's the oil that goes over there. The amount that goes over there is around 1 or 2 drops every time. In the newer pumps, we have 4 hoses, 2 that goes, 1 for each cylinder, and the other 2 goes all the way back to the hopper. One is connecting an ST into the small housing, so every time you are pumping, every time you shift, it pushes a drop of oil. You got your automatic greaser, and we are changing the system. We are trying to run the greaser every half an hour, because sometimes you will be pumping for 45 minutes, stop and wait for the concrete, and the greaser haven't run. But usually, in average, you take 20 to half an hour of time to pump one load. Every 32 minutes now, with the new settings, the greaser will be running, so you will have fresh grease in the system. Your wear parts in the pump are going to last longer. Because 2 years ago, at the beginning of 2018. And if you need it, we have the document and we can show you how to change it. Basically is you open your greaser, you drop the bottom of that one, there is a card inside. In the left-hand side of the card, you have a blue and a red little buttons over there. But when you drop it, in the left-hand side, it's like a card for a computer, and it has pins. And it has 4 sets of pins. One says hours and minutes. That's the space or the time that is going to be without running. And the other says minutes and seconds. And that's the amount of time that it's going to be running. So before we used to have 6 minutes every hour. Because it's multiples of 4, we cannot do half an hour, but now we run 4 minutes every 32 minutes. We feel that it's more efficient because if you are pumping a load in half an hour, a couple minutes later, the system will be greasing. You are going to use the greaser for less time every time because it's going to be only 4 minutes, or we can do 2 minutes. In the long term, grease is cheap. Rebuilding a back end is not that cheap and it's not that much fun. So, pardon?
The oil line that's teed into the grease line,
yes.
Is that actually supposed to just put pressure on the grease, or is that oil actually supposed to get far enough in the...
We got the greaser, and after the distribution block in the back of the hopper, there is 6 ports over there. 3 goes to the back, the one is on the outside, the ones on the inside is agitator, and the small housing. Going into the small housing, we tee the oil. So grease is going there, and every time it switches over, it gets a drop of oil. So we will have grease and oil. In the extreme case that the operator didn't have grease and the pot gets empty of grease, and we know it doesn't happen very often, but it sometimes happens, at least we'll have oil going through, and it will give you time to get at the end of the day and fill up your grease pot. So we have oil and grease going in there.
The oil is mixing with the grease.
Yes, yes, especially in the big housing. Going into the back is tee into one of the ports. If you notice, going to the back, we have 3 full lines for that one. And in the new systems, for the last 4 years, in that little block with the 6 ports, you have 3 long fittings with a grease fitting on top. In that position, you are greasing directly to the back of the housing. If something happens and the greaser stops because we have a line plug, the critical one, the one that needs more grease, is the one in the back. You can grab your greaser and you can pump those 3 ones. If one of those is tight, no, the big one and the output. That is the one that has 5 different ports to get grease, 3 different lines going through it. And now in the distribution block, you have a little fitting, a long fitting. It's a check valve with a grease fitting. You can pump through there and you can get grease on that side because that is critical. That can stop the pump for switching over. So that is pretty much. Drag cylinder pumping kit, torque of the bolts, rod seals. Back to the point I was talking about the oil in the system. So at the end of the day, after you wash out, because the drop of oil fall on top of the rod, you will find a little bit of oil. If you start building up too much, just pay attention if the oiler has failed and is putting too much oil. Or you can do it, lower the pressure, lock your quarter turn valve for the high pressure, or lock the other one, high pressure the cylinders. And if you see oil coming around the differential cylinders right at the end of the main pumping cylinders, it's time to change your gasket. Our recommendation is 500 hours. We have a lot of recommendations. The best thing you can do is follow our recommendation and check. If you don't need to do it, don't do it. But if you notice that has to be done, don't leave it for later. It will be too expensive. Do it now. Call us. We will give you the tricks how to do it. We got the parts in stock. We will send you the instructions. We got a lot of drawings and everything of this because sometimes it's tricky to get to the seals. The way I do it is usually I take out the piston cap, take out the flange, clean that rod within a millimeter of its life because it cannot be clean enough. And it's going to be in contact with the hydraulic, and the hydraulic can never be clean enough. Once it's clean, I use a couple of deck screws and pull couple gaskets at the same time. I don't try to pull those at the same time. And then when I push them in, I push one at a time, press everything back, bob's your ankle.
Turn the pump on. It's locked out. Turn the pump on, put it in gear.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that. Sorry.
No, I get it down to an art.
Okay, another thing you can do is, you know how in the passenger side, near to the water box, you got the little steel line? Disconnect that steel line, put air, pop up to.
Where's that at?
In the driver, in the passenger side, you have your sensing valves. Near to the water box,